Good day, everyone. My name is Hazel SW211 from SW211 and I'm from Group 1. So today, I will be the first one to report from our group about the historical development of social welfare. So, what is social welfare? When we talk about social welfare, it is an organized system that offers assistance to every individuals and families, such as they provide healthcare assistance, food assistance, and unemployment payment. On the other hand, helping is the main activity that used in an old social welfare. Additionally, this is where the conceptual of social welfare has started to develop or form. So, the most social welfare activities, including the modern programs, were established from United Kingdom and United States. So, just like according to Jane Addams, to have the changes in the world or social changes in the world it is need to stand with actions and courage to fight for the social improvements. To further know about the concept of social welfare and where it started, so first is the ancient beginnings, and this time helping the needy and the people who feel pain or not in a good condition was occurred, although it is not necessarily formal organized basis. As I said earlier that the common activity in social welfare many years ago is helping. Also, during this ancient beginning, the conceptions of social welfare was inspired by the religion. Hence, this is where almsgiving was acknowledged by the religious individuals. It means that acquiring grace for the giver. Just like in ancient China, they provide a shelter for the sick and the poor, and also they supplying or transmitting clothes and food for the unfortunate. Grace and room also form a guest house for the guidance and care for the unfortunate group. So next is the old world beginnings. So during this time, the religious motivational became much dominant incentives for benevolence and especially for the charity. So therefore, it plays an important role specifically in Jewish and Christian religious training. So because of the motives of religion in the charity, it influenced essentially the aspirations of the sender to accept the grace of God and to ensure the eternal life through the various of good deeds. So according to the religious teaching of Christianity, since the charity is meant to give the receiver of alms dignity, which means that the receiver receive a donor from the charity, in which where the almsgiving give honor to the kind-hearted person or the donor. So it also includes the missionaries who spend their time in educating, gathering alms or charity, and most especially by delivering aid for the poor individuals. as well as they formed a institutions for charity, but later on they changed it into hospitals to make it home for the sick person, abandoned children, orphans, and the pregnant woman. That's all. Thank you.
Good day everyone, my name is Stephanie Pamaybay and I'm here to report the beginning concepts of social welfare. Back in 1520, common chest created. The prototype of the modern community chest, Martin Luther conceived that there should be common chest for the receipt of food, money, and clothing to assist the needy. So the responsibility for the collections of funds and the distribution of reliefs to the destitute, the sick, and the orphans was assumed by local authorities, but the church wardens played the leading role in relief administration. Daughters of Charity in 1633 were the forerunners of social work. The organization was founded by Saint Vincent de Paul, who recruited young women of the peasant class for charitable work. They were trained in nursing the poor. Father Vincent de Paul was the most important reformer of the charities of the Catholic Church during the 17th century. Back in 16th century individualization, Spanish philosopher Juan Luis de Vives, a Spanish philosopher, advanced the idea that the fate of the individual poor deserved attention. There should be investigation of the social conditions of every pauper family. He recommended that the aid provided through vocational training, employed and rehabilitation instead of the customary distributions of alms. During 1788 Hamburg experiment, Professor Voss, the Commissioner for Public Relief, introduced a district system of investigation and distribution of relief to individual paupers through volunteer committees. The poor were interviewed and the individual needs of each family were determined. Children and youth were trained in elementary courses and industrial school was attached to the Central Orphan Asylum. And in 1790, military workhouse established in managed by Benjamin Thompson to prevent begging by able-bodied paupers. The workhouse manufactured clothing for the army by utilizing the employable poor. Both the Hamburg and the managed relief system were financed by taxation and by collecting of voluntary gifts. Finally, in 1853, Elberfeld system, the city of Elberfeld introduced the idea of financing relief exclusively by public taxation. So that's all for beginning concept of social welfare.
Hello everyone, I'm Narzea Bitana and I'm going to report the English social welfare. Religious foundation. In medieval England, care of the poor was an activity of the church. The main motive of almsgiving was the salvation of the soul of the donor. Early charity. Relief to the destitute was first distributed by the priests of the parish with the help of the church wardens and beacons. In the 13th and 14th century, religious orders and church institutions relieved the parish church from most of the duty of caring for the poor. The Elizabethan Poor Law, the English or Elizabethan Poor Law of 1601 remained for a long time with the basis of English social welfare. It was codification of the preceding poor relief legislation, starting with the Statute of Labour in 1349. The poor laws provided local governments the authority to increase taxes as needed and used to proceeds to build and maintain almshouses, offer indoor relief for elderly, disabled, and other deserving poor, and supply the equipment and supplies needed to hire the unemployed. And that's all. Thank you.
Emerging concept of social welfare. Principle of investigation. Thomas Chalmers, 1780 to 1847, a parish minister in Scotland, introduced the philosophy of personal parochial relief. He organized a program of private charity on the principle of neighborly aid. He developed the principle of investigation of each case of destitution on an individual basis and of attempting a solution to the cause of distress. He stressed that a personal interest in the fate of the destitute is essential. Individual approach. The London charity organization Society developed a relief program based on Chalmers' proposal 50 years later, laying the groundwork for the individual approach to social work, currently known as casework. Social reform. Edwin Chadwick, the first pioneer in public hygiene, supervised investigation into the causes of poverty and the means of an effective social reform. Charity Organization Society, the COS promote the growth of private charities as well as the granting of donations and bequests in their honor, as well the initiative of volunteers to deliver individual relief to families in need. Social research. This is the third important factor that influenced the social philosophy and the practice of poor relief in England. Beveridge Report in 1941. The Beveridge Report, named after the man who headed the committee which prepared the report, is the basis of the present Social Security program of England. The basic principle is that the British people should be protected from hunger and other social ills, and that this protection may be provided while retaining personal freedom, business, and responsibility for one's family. England's Social Security program consists of social insurance, family allowance, and public assistance.
Hi everyone, my name is Alison Gomez. My topic for today is all about American social welfare, early beginnings of American social welfare. American social welfare was founded on the concept of the English Poor Law, which remained the basis for public welfare in the U.S. up to the end of 19th century. Paupers and vagrants were regarded as criminals. Whatever the cause of his distress, the pauper was regarded as a morally deficient person. The major developments in U.S. private social welfare, charity organization societies. A friendly visitor was installed in order to determine the need of every applicant and the necessary measure for each case. Training School for Applied Philanthropy was set up in New York in 1989. The plan was formulated by Mary Richmond in 1897, and Settlement House, a place for working people where their higher moral and intellectual capacities were developed to ensure full participation in a democracy. And the first settlement house in the U.S. founded by Jane Addams and Ellen Gates started in 1889, that is Hull House from Chicago. Residents of the settlement house became the champions for social reform, fighting for equal opportunity and abolition of prejudice and discrimination. And there is five basic policy of American social welfare. That is basic principle, basic objective, basic ideas that influence social welfare, and laissez-faire, and number four. That is number four. And the lastly is social Darwinism. Number one, basic principle: the individual is primarily responsible for his welfare, but the community should establish a basic measure of security in areas beyond the individual's control. And number two is the basic objective, the development and achievement and the happiness of the individual. And number three, basic ideas that influence social welfare Protestant ethic. One's life should be a vocation followed with jealous and discipline, scrupulosity. If a man work hard, work hard and invested his income, he is likely to prosper. Wealth represent meritorious achievement in addition to material benefits. And number four is Lisa's Fair. Free enterprises. Freedom to invest and trade for men work hard with the work for themselves. And the lastly is social Darwinism. Successful competition in the marketplace is inevitably accompanied by the hardships and inequalities. Only those fit survive the competition, survival of the fittest. And that's all.
So good day everyone, this is Christian Aljon Loha, and today we will discuss um, the evolution of social welfare in the Philippines. So as we know, social welfare was already begin even in the prehistoric period. So there are social welfare was existing in this time. So, but the concept of social welfare started during the prehistoric period. So, prehistoric Filipinos lived in small scattered communities located along mouths of rivers and coastal plains. So, Filipinos during this time was living in the mouth of rivers and coastal plains. So, I think they live in that place because um, to easily have access of their needs, especially to the foods and water. Right. So these communities were independent social units called barangay. So the communities were independent, and so and they called barangay. So in that barangay, so they are independent. So they will not rely on the other barangay, but they will rely on their barangay. So concept of bayanihan and damayan were manifested. So the barangay was headed by a hidman who was usually the eldest member of the community and known as the dato. The dato oversees the welfare of the members to serve as arbiter of conflict and leader in the times of danger. So during the prehistoric period, so the leader or the head of the barangay or the community was the dato. So the dato um, will the one or the one who will settle down the problem, mm, um, overlook who or oversees who needs welfare to the community. So he is the one or he or she is the one to guide or to lead the people that was being under to them. So to earn that him or to her. So during this time, the social welfare was focuses on the survival. So survival was main goal of the people during this time. So they have no other goal to live, just survive. So they have no other wants, but they have no other mm, goal in their life, but just to survive, to have food, to have their basic needs in life. So after the prehistoric period, um, Spanish period was come. So during the Spanish period, also social welfare was being changed. So but the social welfare was focuses on the religion. So And during the Spanish period, religion was motivating force for charity. So um, social welfare is happened in the religion during this time. So charity, other other people do good for salvation of their souls. So so the um, they believe in this time, or they believe in this time that if they will give to others, then their salvation, their soul will have salvation. So the remaining forms of charity, example, almsgiving through charitable institutions and hospital for the poor. So there are a lot of charities during the Spanish period. So they have we have almsgiving, also we have institutions and hospitals, and also we have religion that was um, the very head of the charity during this time. So religious orders donation of rich individual and subsidy from the government were the primary sources of funding of social welfare. So the religion as is relying to the donation of rich individuals and subsidy from the government. So this they will get um, their resources or their fundings for social welfare to the government and to the contribution or to the donation of rich individual. So moreover, more hospital and orphanage were built during this time. The responsibility to take care of the poor was given to the church and religious association. So social welfare in this time was being mm, level, or um, um, social welfare in this time was what do you call this? The social welfare was go to a higher level. So because a lot of institution and a lot of churches was being established to help to, to others, or to help to the especially to the poor people who really need help. So the responsibility to take care of the poor was the main, or the activity that was given to the church and the religious association during the Spanish period. So there are hospital, orphanage, and school established during the Spanish period. So in 1565, so the first hospital established in the Philippines by Don Miguel Lopez de Legazpi in Cebu. So it was the parochial school of Cebu. So 1578, San Lazaro Hospital. 1589, Colegio de San Ignacio. 1596, San Juan de Dios Hospital. 1810, Hospital de San Jose. 1855, Ateneo de Manila. And 1855, San Isabel San Juan de Letran. So all this institution was the part of the social welfare of the Philippines, because this is used as a tool to um, to help to others, and this is help as a tool to really do the social welfare to others. So that's all. It, I'll proceed to the next topic, which is also discussed by one of my group. So,
Good day, everyone. My topic is all about the social welfare in the Philippines during American period. The American occupied the country in 1899 and introduced the new educational system, new health methods, and religious freedom. In 1902, the following epidemic of bubonic smallpox, the government created agency named the Insular Board. The Insular Board was established on 1915. It is to coordinate and supervise private institutions engaged in welfare work. This agency was composed the government health officials and therefore effective important programs in the health field, such as the regulation of the practice of medicine and the establishment of provincial and health boards to oversee the health programs of the government. On February 5, 1915, the American government created the Public Welfare Board, with the passage of Legislative Act Number 2510, essentially to coordinate the welfare activities of various existing charitable organizations. In 1917, private social welfare was established. The initial idea was to centralize the receipt and distribution of donations to different charitable organizations. In 1921, the Office of the Public Welfare Commissioner was created under the supervision of the Department of Interior. It absorbed the function of Public Welfare Board, which will charge with coordinating and intensifying the activities of child. This office intensified educational campaigns, particularly along maternal and child health. In 1921, Josefa Jara Martinez was the first Filipino who obtained the Diploma of Social Work from New York Schools of Social Work, and also who worked for Public Welfare Board and started to introduce the scientific approach in social work. The Commonwealth Act Number 439 in 1939, the Office of the Commissioner of Health and Public Welfare, the office which took charge of health and welfare services between 1930 to 1940, was abolished and replaced by the Department of Health and Public Welfare. In 1941, an executive order established the Bureau of Public Welfare and Public Assistance Service, which took over the activities that used to be performed by the associate charities. By the way, I am Jirin Bisanani, the reporter about the American period.
Good day everyone, I'm here to discuss with you the Japanese occupation. During Japanese occupation, social welfare focused only on war relief, assistance to displaced person, and relief for prisoner. These efforts were usually carried out by private individuals, groups, and organizations. Josefa Leones Escoda, the president of National Federation Women's Club, who undertook an organized relief work, was incarcerated in Fort Santiago for underground activities. So was Asuncion Perez, the director of the Bureau of Public Welfare. This post-liberation period paved way a firm assumption by the government of the major responsibility of social welfare. This includes 1. Establish and growth of public assistance program. 2. Emergence of a national social agency. The following agency and organizations were established and delivered service during this era, and I'm going to discuss with you. In 1945, Philippine Civilian Affairs Unit or PCAU and United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Administration or UNRRA distribute relief supplies goods during liberation. In 1945 to 1950, Philippine Relief and Trade Rehabilitation Administration or PRTAR received unallocated supplies to health and welfare to build up a nation system of provincial relief office. Rise wage formulation in 1945 to 1950 also. In connection of PRATRA, the Elise Murphy UN consultant of social welfare, on her group developed the rise wage formula. 8 consisted of the number 145. According to Murphy team, it took the equivalent of 145 gantas of rice a month for a family of 5 to be able to meet a basic needs. Multiply the current price of rice by 145 and the result of the income in pesos needed by a family to live in a month. In 1945 to 1956, War Relief Office or WRO for relief and rehabilitation of indigent victims of wars, especially unrecognized guerrillas, the widows and orphans, created by a Congress. The law was the first public assistance program in fact and not only in name. In 1948 to 1950, President Action Committee on Social Amelioration or PACSA was created on August 12, 1948. It was established by the President Elpidio Quirino to counteract social unrest, economic reforms, counteract social unrest. It had a 6-point program. And what is the 6-point program? First, health, education, social welfare, agriculture, public works, and financing. Appointed as a chairman of PACSA was Asuncion Perez, who became the first woman member of the President Cabinet. Mrs. Asuncion Perez became the Commissioner of Welfare regarded as the Grand Lady of Philippine Social Welfare. And the Grand Lady was Mrs. Asuncion Perez. In 1951, Social Welfare Administration Social Welfare Commission. Social Welfare Commission was created on October 4, 1949, replacing the Bureau of Public Welfare, which recognized social welfare as a vital function of the government. And Social Welfare Administration was created with the merging of SW.
Good day, everyone. Our topic for today is all about evolution of the Department of Social Welfare and Development. So we will start from beginning. June 19, 1965. Social Work Law or RA 4373. An act to regulate the practice of social work and the operation of social work in the Philippines. June 15, 1968. Social Welfare Act of 1968 or RA 5416 created the Department of Social Welfare or DSW, which elevated SWA into a department. September 8, 1976. Department of Social Services and Development or DSSD. This was renamed Department of Social Services and Development per Presidential Decree 994 to shift from dole out to development. June 2, 1978. Ministry of Social Services and Development or Presidential Decree number 1397. DSSD was recognized into Ministry of Social Services and Development under Ministry Sylvia P. Montes. January 13, 1987. Department of Social Welfare and Development or DSWD under Executive number 123. MSSD or Ministry of Social Services and Development renamed to Department of Social Welfare and Development under Secretary Meta D. Tabera. That's all and thank you.
Good day everyone. Again, my name is Stephanie Pamaybay and I will discuss the DSWD vision and mission and also the other secretaries of DSWD. So DSWD is a social welfare arm of the government. Its vision is a society where the poor and vulnerable and disadvantaged individuals, families, and communities are empowered for an improved quality of life. Towards this end, DSWD shall be the world standards for delivery for coordinated social services and social protection for poverty reduction by 2030. The DSWD mission is to develop, implement, and coordinate social protection and poverty reduction solutions for and with the poor, vulnerable, and disadvantaged. So note that DSWD vision and mission has changed from administration from President Benigno C. Aquino to President Rodrigo Roa Duterte in 2016. So the new vision of DSWD is the Department of Social Welfare and Development envisions all Filipinos free from hunger and poverty have equal access to opportunities enabled by a fair, just, and peaceful society. And the new mission of DSWD is to lead in the formulation, implementation, and coordination of social welfare and development policies and programs for and with the poor, vulnerable, and disadvantaged. As what we can see, there are 12 persons who are the secretaries of DSWD, which is Corazon Alma de Leon, Lina Bilaigo, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, Dulce Sagisag, Corazon Juliana Suliman, Dr. Esperanza Cabral, Celia C. Yanko, Corazon Juliano N. Soliman, Judy M. Tagiwalo, Emmanuel A. Leco, Virginia N. Orogo, and Rolando Bautista. These are the secretaries of DSWD in 1992 to the present. The Local Government Code, which is RA 7160, mandated the devolution of implementing functions of DSWD to the local government units, together with its programs and services, direct service workers, budget, assets, and liabilities. The devolution or the process of transferring and delegating powers, functions, and authority to another entity, RA 7160 or the Local Government Code of 1991, an act which mandates the devolution of powers, functions, and authority of some selected national agencies to the local government units. The Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, was one of the agencies which developed its manpower, equipment, programs and services, and corresponding budget of said programs or services. Most of the basic services were developed to the local government units or LGU, such as daycare service, disaster relief services, child and youth welfare programs, women welfare programs, family and community welfare programs, and programs for persons with disability and older persons. The Memorandum Order No. 27, issued by President Fidel Ramos in June 16, 1993, entitled Streamlining of Functions, Activities, and Projects in the Organization Structure and Staffing, has made it necessary for the SWD to effect organizational change and renewal by abolishing the 14 regional offices and establishing field offices as extension units. It is said that Corazon Alma de Leon was the first social worker appointed as chairperson of the Civil Service Commission, whereas Alicia de la Rosa Bala was appointed by President Aquino in 2015. Executive Order No. 15, Series of 1998, transformed the DSWD from a direct service provider to a technical assistance provider. This means that DSWD, except for some mandated services, will no longer perform direct service to its clientele, but will provide technical assistance to its intermediaries such as local government units or LGU, non-government organization or NGO, people organization or POs, and the civil society. So in this lesson, we have learned about the evolution of social welfare concepts and its implication in the current expression of social welfare in the Philippines. We also learned how social welfare involved in the Philippines, particularly the Primary Social Welfare Agency or the DSWD. So that will be all. Thank you.